Imagine a life where sickness and disease have no hold over you, where every cell in your body responds to the power of faith, and where miracles are not just stories, but your reality. Today, I'm going to reveal 7 power words that can unlock divine healing in your life. Words that, when spoken, Whitmore H. Faith, stir the supernatural into motion. Every word you speak carries power, not just in the natural sense, but in the spiritual realm. Words are not mere sounds. They are commands that can shape reality, influence circumstances, and alter outcomes. From the moment you rise in the morning to the MBR moment you rest at night, every word you utter is either creating life or inviting limitation. When it comes to healing, this principle becomes even more profound. Speaking faith-filled words activates divine power in a tangible way. The words you speak about your health, your body, and your life mean the atmosphere around you. When sickness tries to dominate, words spoken in faith can resist, repel, and even reverse its grip. Many people underestimate the authority contained in the spoken word. They think that healing is merely a wish, a prayer said softly, or a hopeful thought. But words, when paired with belief and faith, are like keys that unlock what is already promised in the spiritual realm. To speak words of life is to participate actively in the miracle already set in motion. For instance, declaring I am healed is not simply positive thinking. It is an act of spiritual authority that calls into motion forces beyond the physical senses. It is a statement that aligns your spirit with God's will and affirms that His power is at work in your body. Faith-filled words are more than repetition. They are declarations that create a resonance between your spirit and the supernatural. Every time you affirm healing over yourself, you are not bargaining or begging. You are claiming what belongs to you by divine right. These words penetrate the unseen, stirring angels and energizing the very cells in your body. Scientific studies have shown that mindset, expectation, and positive speech can influence physical well-being. But what we are speaking of here goes beyond natural explanation. It taps into the eternal law that governs life and healing. Words, when spoken with faith, release a spiritual energy that your mind cannot fully measure, but your body can experience. The danger lies in negative speech. When words of fear, doubt, or illness dominate your mouth, they also carry weight and authority. Saying, I can get well, or this sickness is too strong, reinforces the presence of sickness rather than dispelling it. Every negative statement gives strength to TBR, he enemy S hold. Conversely, affirming truth, declaring God's promises, and speaking words of health and restoration builds a spiritual environment conducive to miracles. Your words are your frontline weapons in the battle for healing. They carry intention, command, and expectancy. Consistency in SPR EKI. NG faith-filled words is vital. It is not a one-time declaration, but a daily practice. When you rise, speak life over yourself. When challenges appear, speak health and strength. When doubts creep in, override them with declarations of God's promises. Over time, your spirit begins to resonate with the words you habitually speak. Your body begins to respond, your mind begins to align, and circumstances begin to shift. Spoken words, repeated with faith and expectancy, create a rhythm that pulls divine healing from the spiritual realm into the natural. It is also important to recognize that WBR words spoken in the heart, even silently, carry power. Your inner dialogue shapes your perception and commands your spirit in subtle but significant ways. Speaking audibly strengthens the declaration, but aligning your thoughts and beliefs with what you declare amplifies the effect. Every utterance, every affirmation, every confession of faith is a spiritual act. The very act of speaking life over your body activates forces designed to bring restoration and health. Words are the bridge between the invisible power of God and the visible reality of your life. Faith is the invisible force that transforms the unseen into the seen. It is the bridge between the promise of healing and the actual manifestation of health in your body. Without faith, Words, prayers, and declarations remain empty sounds, echoing without effect. Faith is the engine that moves divine power. It is the channel through WBR Hick miracles flow. It is not passive or weak. It is active, vibrant, and demanding of belief that goes beyond what the eyes can see or the mind can comprehend. Healing does not come because it is convenient or easy, but because faith releases God's power into your life, compelling sickness to flee and life to flourish. Many fail to receive healing because they rely on what they feel rather than what they believe. Faith operates on the promise of God, not the circumstances around you. Even if your body aches, even if doctors give unfavorable reports, faith declares, "This sickness does not differ in me. God's healing power is stronger than my disease." It is a deliberate choice to trust what God says above what your senses report. Faith is the refusal to be swayed by fear, the refusal to let doubt have a voice, and the refusal to entertain the lie that healing is out of reach. Every moment of doubt delays the miracle, while even a small measure of faith activates supernatural intervention. Faith is also the response to God's word. When a promise of healing is spoken or read, faith says, "I accept it. I believe it. I receive it now." It is not enough to admire the promise or hope it applies to someone else. Faith personalizes it. It takes the words of God and applies them directly to your life. Faith is never theoretical. It is the action that aligns your spirit with God's power. Through faith, the impossible becomes possible, and what seems natural becomes supernatural. When you ref, you let doubt dominate, faith becomes a declaration that healing is not only available, but inevitable. Faith also strengthens your words. Declarations of healing carry authority only when backed by genuine belief. Saying, "I am healed," without faith is just repetition with faith. It is a command that the spiritual realm cannot ignore. Faith imbues your words with power. It is the substance behind the confession, the energy behind the declaration, and the confidence that transforms spoken promises into visible results. Without faith, even the most fervent prayer is like a seed drop of birdie on barren ground. With faith, the same seed produces an abundant harvest. Faith is tested through persistence. Healing may not appear instantly, but faith does not waver in delay. It presses, it persists, it stands firm despite contrary evidence. It refuses to retreat when the body resists, when PBRA lingers, or when discouragement whispers lies. The longer faith stands, the more unstoppable it becomes. It gathers momentum, pulling divine intervention closer and compelling the supernatural to respond. Faith is strengthened in the act of continuing to believe, speak, and declare, even when THPRE natural world contradicts the promise. Finally, faith is relational. It connects you directly to the power of God. Healing is not mechanical, it is personal. Faith opens the door for God's presence to enter, for His Spirit to move, and for His power to touch your life in tangible ways. It is not a formula, it is trust that transforms reality. When faith dominates your heart and mind, sickness loses its authority. Every cell, every organ, every system in your body begins to respond to the spiritual power released through your unwavering belief. Faith is the force that activates the miraculous, turning the promise of healing into the reality of health, strength, and restored life. Receiving is an act of faith, a conscious choice to accept what God has already provided. Healing is not something we earn or negotiate for. It is already made available through divine power. Yet, if we do not actively receive it, the blessing remains dormant. Receiving requires more than mental assent. It requires a heart fully open to the promise, a will aligned with God's word, and a declaration that says, "I accept this healing now." Many struggle because they think they must first see results, feel MBR improvement, or experience a change in circumstances before claiming the miracle. True receiving flips that expectation. It begins before the visible evidence, trusting that God's promise is effective even in the unseen. The act of receiving begins with understanding that healing is your right, not a PBR privilege. Sickness is not a sentence, and disease is not a decree from God. By opening your heart to receive, you acknowledge that divine power is already working on your behalf. It is not a matter of convincing God to act, but of convincing your own spirit to accept what has already been given. Rekbar Iving is a declaration of faith that bridges the gap between God's provision and your experience. It is saying with confidence, I will not let doubt or fear block what belongs to me. Every hesitation, every question, and every moment of unbelief delays the flow of healing into your life, but every act of surrender and acceptance releases it. Receiving also requires action through words and confession. Simply believing in silence is not enough. It must be vocalized, declared, and reinforced. When you say, I receive my healing now, you are not negotiating with fate. You are actively participating in the miracle. Your words, infused with faith, carry authority and align your spirit with the supernatural. Receiving is an active posture. It is the willingness to accept, the readiness to be healed, and the courage to declare that the promise is yours. The moment you take this position, the forces of heaven respond to your declaration, and the body begins to respond to the spirit. Another aspect of receiving is the rejection of doubt and fear. These are the natural barriers that block blessings from manifesting. Every thought that questions God's promise is a blockade in the flow OBRF healing. To receive, you must deliberately shut out negativity and affirm the truth of God's word. You must speak boldly, believe fervently, and maintain unwavering expectancy. It is not a passive waiting, but a confident stance that insists the miracle is happening, even if the physical evidence HBR has not yet appeared. Receiving also involves gratitude. When you thank God for healing before it is fully visible, you reinforce your faith and create a spiritual environment conducive to miracles. Gratitude is not just politeness. It is an acknowledgement that the miracle is already in motion. By XBAR pressing thanks, you signal your trust and affirm that you are ready to accept the outcome. Your heart and spirit become fertile ground for the divine power to take root and produce visible results. Finally, receiving is a continuous act. It does not end with one declaration or one prayer. Healing MBR must be consistently received, reinforced, and believed day after day until it manifests fully. Every affirmation, every act of faith, every declaration of God's promises strengthens your position as a receiver. It is not about forcing results, but about aligning your spirit with what is already true. The moment you fully receive healing in your heart, your body begins to respond, your mind begins to agree, and your life reflects the miracle that has already been released. Gratitude and rest are often overlooked keys to unlocking divine healing, yet they are among the most powerful forces in activating God's promises. Gratitude is more than polite words or fleeting thanks. It is a spiritual posture that aligns your heart with the truth of God's provision. When you express gratitude for healing before it manifests, you are affirming your belief that God's promise is already effective, even IBRF your. Circumstances have not yet changed. This act of faith transforms your environment, shifts your focus from lack to abundance, and opens the channels through which miracles flow. Gratitude is not dependent on evidence. It thrives on trust. By saying, thank you, Lord, for my healing, you are not waiting to be healed. You are stepping into the reality that healing is already in motion. Rest is the companion to gratitude. It may seem counterintuitive that rest doing nothing can be an active agent in producing healing, but spiritual rest is a powerful declaration of trust. When you rest in God's promise, you are choosing to stop striving, stop worrying, and stop forcing results through human effort. Rest signals to the spirit, soul, and body that you believe the miracle is already happening. It is in this rest that your body begins to respond to the supernatural, your mind finds peace, and your heart remains steady in expectation. Just as a seed grows unseen in the soil, healing can grow in your body while you rest, trust, and wait expectantly. The combination of gratitude and rest creates an atmosphere where faith can operate unhindered. Fear, anxiety, and frustration are natural barriers to healing, and they often arise when we focus too much on what we cannot see. Gratitude shifts your attention to what is true, God's word and his promises, while rest provides the calm necessary for that promise to take root. Together, they act as a spiritual conduit, channeling divine energy into your body and life. When gratitude fills your heart, it pushes out doubt. When rest fills your mind, it silences fear. In this harmony, miracles can manifest more quickly and powerfully than we often realize. Gratitude also strengthens your words. Every declaration of thanks reinforces favor and amplifies the power of your confessions. By continually speaking, "Thank you, Lord, for my healing," you are not only acknowledging God's work, but also commanding your spirit to align with the reality of that healing. Words of thanks carry authority and expectation, creating a resonance that pulls the promise into manifestation. The spiritual law behind this principle is simple yet profound. The heart that praises and rests opens itself to receive the full measure of what has been promised. Rest in this context is active faith, not inactivity. It is the conscious decision to stop responding with circumstances and to trust that God's power is at work. It is the willingness to allow divine intervention to take the lead. This rest is a spiritual declaration. It tells heaven that you are not dependent on the natural for healing, but on the supernatural. It is in these moments of trustworthy and stillness that your body begins to receive life-giving restoration at the cellular level, and your mind begins to release the tension that can exacerbate illness. Ultimately, gratitude and rest work together to create a fertile environment for miracles. Gratitude affirms the promise. Rest shawns you to receive it, and faith allows the invisible power of God to flow freely into your life. This combination is not theoretical, it is practical and transformative. Every time you thank God for healing and rest in his promise, you are participating in the miracle, aligning your spirit with TBR, the unseen power that brings restoration, strength, and wholeness. Authority over sickness is a truth often overlooked, yet it is one of the most vital aspects of accessing divine healing. You have been given power, not weakness, dominion, not defeat. Sickness may appear strong in the natural, but in the spiritual realm, it has no legal right to your body, your mind, or your life. Understanding this authority is the key to releasing healing. It is not about hoping for mercy or pleading for relief. It is about standing firm in the truth, recognizing the power you have been given, and speaking with unwavering confidence. When you decree, "I command this sickness to leave my body," you are not speaking out of emotion or desperation. You are exercising the authority that has already been placed within you. Many people struggle with healing because they do not realize their position of authority. They pray timidly, ask cautiously, or wonder if they are worthy. Yet divine authority is not based on worthiness or merit. It is a gift, a right, and a tool for obedience. Sickness can only operate in areas where authority has been ignored, unclaimed, or surrendered. By taking a stand and speaking with faith, you reclaim ground that sickness may have tried to occupy. Every declaration of authority weakens the enemy's hold and strengthens the flow of life and restoration. This authority is not theoretical. It produces real, tangible results when exercised with faith and boldness. Authority RBR requires understanding that healing is not an event, but a position. You are not negotiating with circumstances, you are commanding them. This authority is rooted in the spiritual laws that govern life and health. By speaking in faith, you are aligning yourself with God's order and activating the power that makes miracles inevitable. Sickness has no voice in the presence of authority, no strength when confronted with faith-backed declarations, and no claim over one who knows their right to divine healing. The moment you fully embrace your authority, fear loses its grip and doubt loses its voice. Speaking with authority also demands consistency and clarity. It is not enough to make one declaration and hope for results. Authority is reinforced through repeated, confident confessions. Every time you declare healing, speak life, or command sickness to leave, you are reinforcing your position and demanding that the spiritual realm align with your words. This consistency strengthens your faith, stabilizes your expectation, and ensures that your declarations are not temporary, but anchored in persistent belief. The combination of authority and repeated confession creates momentum, making THBRE supernatural work on your behalf more effectively and powerfully. Authority over sickness also requires boldness. Hesitation dilutes power. When you stand and speak in faith, you are telling heaven and the spiritual realm that you will not tolerate disease in your body. Boldness in declaration demonstrates confidence in the promise, a refusal to allow fear or uncertainty to interfere, and an unshakable trust in divine power. The natural mind may question and the body may resist, but the authority exercised in faith overrides all resistance. It is not arrogance, it is alignment with the Trut Bar H, that divine healing is your inheritance and your right. Finally, exercising authority is an act of partnership with divine power. It is recognizing that you are not powerless, that the resources of heaven are at your disposal, and that healing is not a hope, but a reality waiting for your command. Authority transforms your prayers from requests into decrees, from hope into expectation, and from uncertainty into confident action. When exercised with faith, clarity, consistency, and boldness, your authority over sickness becomes a living, active force that releases restoration, strength, and WHBR wholeness into every part of your life. The moment you claim this authority, sickness must respond, and healing begins to manifest in every area where it has been called forth.